is there any possibility of India and China entering into an agreement of some sorts, especially after Russia and China's closeness? Will this ongoing scenario help in improving Russia India China relations in some way? And Akash says the relations of Russia and China with the West are well known to be unsatisfactory, to say the least. Russia and China have come closer in the last few years. Russia and India have always been pretty fine. The US have always supported Pakistan over India. Why doesn't China act smartly and make friendly gesture towards India, leaving the crippled Pakistan alone, at least till the time the supremacy of the West can be put down to rest? Well, it's still early days in the current scenario. The Ukraine invasion, the Russian intervention in Ukraine began in the third or fourth, I think, in late February, right? And we are currently in more or less mid March, so it's still early days in the conflict. And as we know, like both of you have pointed out correctly, the Chinese and the Russians have a reasonably close relationship. You could possibly construe it to be a kind of an alliance. How long will it last is to be seen, but yes, they are cooperating, they are coordinating their approaches, and there seems to be some sort of understanding, satisfactory understanding between them. Now the question is there a possibility of some kind of rapprochement between India and China? Well, it could happen. I mean, it's still early days, like I say. This is going to be this could just be the start of the conflict, right? If you look at the history of, let's say, World War II, it starts. When does it start? 38, 39. There, somewhere around that. I don't remember the exact dates, the years, but the Americans did not get involved into in the war for like 2 3 years. It's only, I think, in 41 that the Americans got involved, and the Germans had been taking country after country at that point. So I don't think the world at that point in time even knew that they were in the middle of a world war, right? It's only later that they realized that what we went through was the Second World War. So who knows what we are in right now? And it's still very early days. You just 2 3 weeks into it. As the situation evolves, the Chinese in the coming year or two may consider it to be wise to make some kind of agreement with India. It is possible. And if it is a mutually beneficial agreement, then even India may be open to that sort of thing. And the stumbling block is the border demarcation. The Chinese have vehemently refused to demarcate the border, and it has they have considered it to be beneficial for them to have an undemarcated border between India and Tibet, Chinese occupied Tibet, because that gives them the opportunity to keep needling India and keep pressurizing India militarily from higher ground in Tibet, in order to keep India off balance and to keep India feeling insecure all the time. Because in the last 30 years, the Chinese have gone way ahead of us economically and militarily. If you have a larger economy, you will have a larger military proportionately. So they see that as a way of keeping their advantage, of driving home, constantly driving home their advantage over India. They don't want India to be stable. They don't want India to feel secure. They always want India to feel constantly off balance. So India always has these problems, and India will not be able to rise to the extent that it should, because they see India as the only potential rival in Asia, right? But if the things go badly in the coming couple of years, 2 3 years, then they may find it to be beneficial for them to perhaps enter into some kind of agreement or cooperation with India. It's possible. So yeah, I would say it's still early days. We have to see how things evolve. The Americans are right now putting a lot of pressure on India as well to capitulate, to give up and become a full-fledged vassal state of the US, and to denounce what Russia is doing, and just to slide headlong into the NATO kind of situation. And then they can take over the whole country in a variety of ways, right? Through democracy and through subnational diplomacy and whatever else they call it, which is essentially neo-colonization. So that's what they would like to see happen in India, the Americans, and India is resisting that. So let's see how things goes. It is certainly something that could happen in the future, a kind of alliance between India, China, and Russia. But the precondition for that to happen is that India and China should demarcate the border. The final demarcation should be done. If that happens, then then there could be an alliance or agreement between India and China. So depending on how things go, if the let's say Russia doesn't do well, the Chinese are hoping the Russians will do well, and they will support Russia, and slowly they will build a parallel system to the Western system as an alternative for other countries who are tired of the Western meddling and interference in their internal affairs, whether it is Asia, whether it's Africa or other countries. They may even want Japan or other countries to come into that, possibly, as if they succeed in constructing such a system, an alternative system. But if Russia doesn't do well in the coming 2 3 years, then the Chinese may feel isolated, and then they may want to explore other options. So all the possibilities are open right now, right? So it all depends on how this goes, how the current thing goes. We are still very much in the early days. If the Russians do well and the Americans are not able to destroy the country thoroughly, then certain scenarios may emerge. If the Russians do poorly and the Chinese feel that this supporting Russia in the long run will not work out, then a whole different set of scenarios opens up. So these possibilities are all open right now. In the next 2 3 years, who knows what will happen? We may even end up seeing an India China alliance. The possibility is remote, but it is not zero. So it could happen in the next 2 3 or 5 years. It could happen. Let's see how it goes. I cannot make a prediction because there are too many variables that are currently unknown, but it is a possibility.